There was an atmosphere of repressed hysteria in the Kremlin as the evidence of German intentions mounted. The Wehrmacht was quite shameless in its preparations. Yet the lack of secrecy seems only to have confirmed the idea in Stalin's convoluted mind that this must all be part of a plan by Adolf Hitler to extract greater concessions. The Soviet ambassador in Berlin, Vladimir Dekhanusov, shared Stalin's conviction that it was all a campaign of disinformation, originally started by the British. He even dismissed the report of his own military attaché that 180 divisions had deployed along the border. But other members of the mission, although they did not dare express their views too forcefully, had little doubt that Hitler was planning to invade. They had even sent on the proofs of a phrase book prepared for invading troops, which had been brought secretly to the Soviet consulate by a German communist printer. Useful terms included the Russian for surrender, hands up, where is the collective farm chairman, are you a communist, and I'll shoot. As the Saturday afternoon in Berlin turned to evening, the messages from Moscow grew increasingly frantic. Berezhkov rang the Wilhelmstrasse every 30 minutes. Still, no senior functionary would accept his call. In Moscow, the Soviet Foreign Minister, Molotov, summoned Count von der Schulenburg to the Kremlin. The German ambassador, after overseeing the destruction of the embassy's secret papers, set off for the meeting called for 9:30. When challenged with the evidence of German preparations, he did not admit that an invasion was about to take place. He simply expressed his astonishment that the Soviet Union could not understand the situation and refused to answer any questions until he had consulted Berlin. Schulenburg, a diplomat of the old school who believed in Bismarck's dictum that Germany should never make war on Russia, had good reason to be astonished by the Kremlin's ignorance. Over 2 weeks before, he had invited Dekhanusov, then back in Moscow, to a private lunch and warned him of Hitler's plans. The old count clearly felt absolved from any loyalty to the Nazi regime after the Führer had blatantly lied to him, claiming to have no designs against Russia. But Dekhanusov, astonished at such a revelation, immediately suspected a trick. Stalin, reacting in the same way, exploded to the Politburo, "Disinformation has now reached ambassadorial level." Stalin, who had refused to accept the possibility of an invasion until that Saturday afternoon, still remained terrified of provoking Hitler. Goebbels, with some justification, compared him to a rabbit mesmerized by a snake. A succession of reports from frontier guards told of tank engines being warmed up in the woods across the border, of German army engineers constructing bridges across rivers and removing barbed wire entanglements in front of their positions. Yet Stalin, the totalitarian dictator, still could not come to terms with the idea that events might be outside his control. That night, after long discussions in his study with senior commanders of the Red Army, Stalin agreed to the coded dispatch of a signal to all military district headquarters in the West. In the course of 22-23 June 1941, sudden attacks by the Germans on the fronts of Leningrad, Baltic Special, Western Special, Kiev Special, and Odessa military districts are possible. The task of our forces is not to yield to any provocations likely to prompt major complications. At the same time, troops are to be at full combat readiness to meet a possible surprise blow by the Germans and their allies. But for many units, the warning order, which did not go out until after midnight, arrived too late. In Berlin, Berezhkov had given up any hope of getting through to Ribbentrop's office as the night wore on. Suddenly, at around 3 a.m, the telephone beside him rang. An unfamiliar voice announced, "Herr Reichsminister von Ribbentrop wishes to see representatives of the Soviet government at the Foreign Office in the Wilhelmstrasse." When Berezhkov and Dekhanusov reached the Wilhelmstrasse, they saw a crowd of people outside. The entrance, with its wrought-iron awning, was lit by camera lights for newsreel crews. Pressmen surrounded the two Soviet diplomats, momentarily blinding them with the flash bulbs of their cameras. This unexpected reception made Berezhkov